at this point, we just racking them things up on y'all. You feel me? Like, it's just going crazy. If you saw the last two videos, maybe you heard the washer in the back. That bad boy is finally done. You feel me? But yeah, let's get into this video right here. Why being single is so expensive in the US. Personally, I want to know this too. I feel like the world, well, let me just say the US specifically, is catered to families and people who are in a relationship. And maybe that's just past infrastructure and all that stuff. But nowadays, if you know, like, most men are single. I mean, technically, right? Most men are single. The divorce rate is crazy. So I just feel like there's a lot more singleness out here. So why is it so expensive in the US? I feel like sometimes I buy things and I'm like, bro, this is way too much for just me as one person. Or, like I said, this isn't really conducive to me living a single life. It's like you get, is scolded the right word? You get like it's a detriment to you being single. But yeah, let's get into it.
Nearly half of all U.S. adults are single today. That number has been steadily rising for several decades.
Right.
Nearly 70% of men and about 65% of women were married in 1960. Today, it's just over 50% of men and around 50% of women who are married.
Young people are getting married later, if they get married at all. There are also people, of course, in unmarried partnerships, but I think that a lot of that really is people who are not ever going to be permanently partnered.
117.6 million Americans aged 18 and over never married, are divorced, or widowed.
They're not single for the usual reasons that you hear. Oh, there's not enough marriageable men for women, or any of those kinds of reasons. But instead, that they find single life fulfilling.
As someone single living in a major city
I
like
feel
New York,
that.
it's definitely very stressful when it comes to personal finances. You have the full burden on your shoulders. So I would say the majority of my friends who are single and live alone, they're very stressed about the cost of living.
A 2023 survey
Now listen. Oh man. I feel that sometimes I literally just be like, I don't even want a relationship. Like, I just want somebody to split the bills with. And don't get me twisted. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm fine. But, I mean, I'll always be happy for someone to take the load off out there. You feel me? So if you're a sugar mama, drop something in the comments.
revealed that the top 3 stressors for single Americans, excluding Gen Z, were all financial. 39% said they were stressed about the general state of the economy. 38% said it was their long-term financial future, while 35% blamed the effects of inflation.
There's a lot of consternation, especially at early ages and later ages, with being single and independent, and how much you might need to ask others for help, both as an optional idea or as a literal idea to ensure you're going to be okay.
So what's causing so much financial anxiety among single Americans?
Inflation.
Singles tax is a newly coined term referring to the financial burdens that are uniquely incurred by single people.
I definitely think there is a singles tax. It's much more expensive to be single than to be in a relationship.
If you're single and living alone, you don't get the economies of scale. So instead of having a partner to split expenses with, you cover everything yourself.
Take a look at South Carolina.
See, hold up. That is a fact. And as someone who's like very solo dolo with a lot of things, like I oftentimes go out by myself. Even if I'm going out with people, like I'll just meet you there. So I'm not usually like carpooling, because we're going to get into it a little bit, but I like to just be able to go and come when I'm ready. I don't like having to wait on people. I don't want people feeling like they got to wait on me. You know what I'm saying? And I enjoy, and I'm complicated, yo. Like, it's cool for you to be there, but it's times where it's like I just want my space. So either way, I was going to be doing a lot of things solo. But by doing that, I see, like, society just isn't built for that. I think that's not the norm. I think when I'm out, people look at me like, oh, like you by yourself, like. So, yeah.
Carolina, which ranks right in the middle among all states in terms of cost of living. MIT calculates that the typical expenses for 2 working adults with no children total around $47,483 a year. By contrast, a single adult with no children has estimated expenses
55.
of $29,880 annually. That means a single individual has at least $6,000 more in expenses per year compared to individuals who are splitting their bills with their partner.
I have to cover all of my living expenses, medical costs, travel expenses, food, etc. Like everything is on you. There's really no splitting the bill, which is what's so nice about having a partner or being in a relationship.
Break down the typical expense even further, and you can see that nearly every type of expenses, apart from medical, is cheaper per person for couples who have the luxury of
even medical's not that much.
Maintaining your household costs a lot more money now than it did about 5 or 10 years ago. And when you're single, there's no one that you can share and spread those costs along with.
The biggest expense among them is housing. A 2023 analysis by Zillow revealed that renters pay a singles tax of nearly $7,000 a year for living alone. And in major cities like New York City, that number can be as high as $19,500.
It's like, I don't even want a relationship. I just want a roommate. And I could cuddle with from time to time. And, do other things with. Catch my drift.
A year.
My largest expense is actually my housing, so my rent takes up the majority of my expenses. It's definitely challenging finding an apartment and securing housing in New York City as a single person because one, the rent is so high, so you have to make a certain amount of money to even qualify for an apartment, on your own.
The obvious reasons that housing is a bigger share of single people's expenses is simply that there's one person living per housing unit versus 2 or more people living per housing unit. But I think it goes beyond that. Single people may be more likely to live in expensive cities like New York or San Francisco where we have housing crises. Housing in general has become a big problem around the country, and I think it is especially acute for single people in urban areas.
The cost of living in New York City has definitely made me and my friends reconsider why we do live here and what we're actually investing in. Because if you don't have a lot of extra money to spend, if you're spending it all on your rent and your bills, you can't really go out, you can't really enjoy the arts and culture and activities that are all around New York City, why are you here?
Inflation has also played a major role in aggravating these expenses.
It's really hard to control your housing expense, and it's really hard to control your food expense because they are necessities. Things like clothing, entertainment, they have more variability, but these fixed expenses really do contribute to that singles tax, and unfortunately that's where inflation is hitting the hardest right now.
Definitely this year especially, the cost of everything, food, travel, gas for your car, like everything has increased, and that eats into your budget and eats into your savings account.
But it's not just expenses that are stacked against single people.
Financial advantages for married couples are written right into the laws of the land.
The most prominent example is the income tax. According to MIT's calculator, the typical tax expense for a single adult with no children is about 44% higher than the split expense from 2 working adults.
I might get over. Camera just died on you, boy, but let's get back into it. It was talking about this 44% higher income tax wise. We're gonna get back into it, but man, I'm about to on my Drake, I'm about to.
And an example is the income tax. According to MIT's calculator, the typical tax expense for a single adult with no children is about 44% higher than the split expense from 2 working adults with no children.
It used to be that tax brackets were structured in such a way that if 2 people were earning money and then they combined their incomes, they would actually pay more taxes after they were married.
This marriage tax penalty was largely eliminated for all but certain states and high-income earners, following the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act under the Trump administration.
There's really no longer a marriage penalty. The standard deduction is basically double the single deduction. The time that being married does benefit you financially is if you do have one spouse that earns more than the other. You have someone who's making $200,000 and your spouse is making $400,000. Now that does benefit you.
This income gap could result in bigger tax breaks that are reserved for couples with children.
If there's a disparity in income between spouses, now you may qualify for certain tax credits that you could not qualify on your own or get a higher amount, like the child tax care credit. The amount you get is dependent upon your income. Or if you're paying for child care, there's the dependent care credit. So there are certain credits that do benefit you if you're married and you bring your incomes together and one spouse has lower income than the other, that now qualifies you for a specific tax credit and benefit.
A 2023 survey revealed that 74% of singles dislike paying more taxes than married couples. And 79% said they'd like to see the government offer more tax breaks for single people.
Why shouldn't we get tax breaks? And even one example, a married couple, they're more able to purchase a home because they have shared capital, and that's a tax break in itself.
Social Security is another policy that favors those who are married.
You're able to, at times, take your spouse's Social Security benefit if it's higher than yours. So let's say during your lifetime, you earn $50,000 a year on average. Your spouse earned $150,000 a year. When your spouse passes away and you're married, or you're married for at least 10 years, you now have the option of taking that higher Social Security benefit, even though it's not based on your income.
When my married colleague dies, their Social Security can go to their spouse, or in some cases, to a whole array of ex-spouses. My Social Security goes back into the system. I can't say, give it to a close friend or a sibling or someone else who's really important to me. And so I'm basically getting paid less for the same work.
Yeah.
All of these factors, along with the luxury of splitting the bill, makes it significantly easier for married Americans to both save and grow their assets. A 2019 study by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis found that married young adults have greater median net worth and home ownership rates compared to single households.
Well, duh.
Between 1989 and 2016,
Strength
a
in
typical
numbers.
household
Like,
with a married couple had 3 times the amount of net worth compared to households that were partnered or single.
I do think it's easier for couples to build assets, and there's one caveat I'm going to share there is that you both have a shared vision of what your goals are, and you both have discipline. One of the things we've read in studies is that people tend to achieve their goals at a higher rate is if they have an accountability partner.
For sure.
So having a spouse or partner living with you in your household, watching you day to day, month to month, watching your spending does allow you to be able to reach your financial goals a lot more quickly.
But being single also comes with its unique set of benefits.
This idea of being single is extremely empowering to people, which is why they're willing to pay more to do it.
Yeah.
Financial freedom that comes from being single is really awesome because I get to spend all my money on me.
Yeah.
And my favorite person is me. So I save a ton of money on dates and money that I don't have to spend, or gifts and things like that, or even travel, and get to really invest in myself. And that's really nice. Or I can repurpose the money that I would use in dating or as a couple. I can spend it on my friends and family as well. So there's a lot of freedom with that.
Nevertheless, certain policy changes can...
I'm gonna say this before it slips my mind. I feel them 100%, and I'm glad that they touched on some positives. But I also think there's a balance in everything. You feel me? That all the empowerment, financial, all that is great. Don't get me wrong, it is great. But for me at least, it gets to a point where it's like, dang. You feel me? Like, I need a little physicality. But the beauty of it though is you get to pick and choose whenever that time comes too. I just think that's something that he didn't want to bring up. Like, yeah. Now, it's cool for a little bit, but after a while, it gets a little old. It gets a little old. Similar to how them roses be for these girls. Like, yeah.
greatly improve the financial health of single Americans.
Maybe a lot of people who are watching this are young single people, and I think for them, the
What you trying to
biggest
say,
single
Mooney?
thing is to get housing costs under control and make housing more accessible.
Housing costs are really high, and it's also such a competitive market. There's so many people who offer these like full cash offers for
Yeah.
homes
Crazy.
as well. So it doesn't even include you having a mortgage. So there's just so many factors that have made the housing market so challenging to purchase a home. Personally, I don't really see a future as a homeowner, and I'm an optimist.
The single biggest factor in
I like
why
them, though.
housing costs are too high in urban areas is zoning laws. These zoning laws benefit current homeowners who tend to be disproportionately married couples. That's the problem, is that people who own homes know that the current system benefits them, and they will fight. For example, multifamily housing, they will oppose that because it lowers their property values, even though it makes housing affordable for everybody else.
There are several things that single Americans can do themselves to navigate around the singles tax.
Tell me.
It's even more important for you to budget. Understand how much money you're making, how much money you're spending, where is your money going. You probably have a lot of fixed costs that you need to be aware of.
Finding someone to split expenses with is one decision that will likely have immediate impact.
For sure.
According to Zillow, renters with roommates save $14,000 compared to single renters each year.
Try your best to find a trusted partner, a trusted individual that you can share some of your expenses with, whether that is a commute, a home, meals, and try to make that habitual.
I'm not telling you to maintain 30 rolls of toilet paper, but if you buy 30 and you share it with 3 friends, you do have that cost savings that you can share amongst each other. So think about yourself integrating into a community and identifying ways to help minimize some of your day-to-day expenses.
Being single, sometimes it feels like it's a curse to people, or the way like society positions it, it's like a bad thing. It's not. It's great. Like, you have so much like life and freedom that you have. And I would just say take advantage of it. Just know that you're a catch, and you're gonna end up with someone, and you're gonna be able to save money and live a great life. But in the meantime, like, enjoy your freedom, enjoy your friends, enjoy your
Definitely
family,
feel him. Hold up.
explore, travel, try
Go
new
ahead, finish.
things, pick up hobbies. But
No, definitely feel him though. Definitely feel him. That's the thing. I don't like even all the benefits that they were saying, and what I was saying earlier with just, you know, the physicality, being able to talk to other shit, all that shared memories and experiences, all that good stuff. The financial benefits. Also, sometimes relationships come with a lot of headache and a lot of stress, and they are expensive. And then those expenses come with stress and headaches. So I just be like, okay, that's cool, but is the juice worth the squeeze? You feel me? Like, is it really worth even going through all of that for? I just be like, man, I'd rather just rock with this thing dolo. It's the same thing where I was saying earlier, where I go out by myself. Like, I don't like people like, now you want to go, I'm having a good time, or I'm not really having a good time, I'm ready to dip, and you, like, it's just, let's just cut all of that. I'll just meet you there. You feel me? Like, it would just be too much for me. But yeah, if you're single, drop down below. If you feel like you've been experiencing some of that singles tax, I feel like I'd definitely be experiencing that. Like I said, when I go out, I feel like you'd be experiencing that. Especially as men, I feel like, yeah, I'm going to get into a whole thing. But drop a like on the video if you like the video, and don't forget to subscribe. And catch you guys in the next one.